6:14 happening today. A film shot in the Tulsa area and starring Academy Award nominee Lily Gladstone premieres in theaters. Fancy Dance highlights an Indigenous woman's struggle to find her missing sister while taking care of her niece. I spoke with Lily and her co-star Isabel DeRoy-Olson about the film ahead of the premiere.
Okay, I have to point this out. Obviously, right behind me, it's pretty noticeable. I was actually on set with you for one.
Yeah.
I was a for Brendan Fraser for one day.
Amazing.
Out at Paul's homestead.
Amazing.
So that was a fun experience. It really was. Incredible. It was 100 degrees, but
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Brutal.
So you're kind of, this is like your second home now, Oklahoma. You're here quite a bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, Pillars of the Flower Moon, Fancy Dance, kind of a second home.
Yeah, it definitely became that. I was very happy to be there 2 years in a row. A lot of the same locations. We were filming in Fancy Dance. We're also very near, at least, to where we were shooting Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah, I love Tulsa. I go back every chance I get. I've been back for 2 seasons of Res Dogs. This year excluded. I've been able to go back for Grey Horsey, Launchka the last several years. It's, you develop a community in a place. So
very cool. Love having you here. This film, of course, focuses on missing and murdered Indigenous women, a very serious subject, a problem really until recently that hasn't gotten the notice that it has deserved. And there's still work to be done, obviously. What does it mean for both of you to be able to work on a project like this and get this story told?
It's really an honor, but it's also very scary to kind of be a part of that representation because, it's a very real thing. These are lived experiences. The film is fiction, but it really, so many people can see themselves in it. And I think that's really important to note because, if you're in North America, you're on Indigenous land. And so the fact that so many people are still so ignorant and unaware to what's happening with missing and murdered Indigenous people, the film really gives them, it opens the door to kind of want that desire to learn. And that's really what I hope people take away from it, is just that drive to learn more. And
yeah. And I'm really grateful that Fancy Dance is with Apple, same home as Killers of the Flower Moon, so soon after it had its historic run. Because I feel like a lot of audiences who watch that film, of course, are become acquainted with a history that they were unaware of. I feel like while it's definitely, to an Indigenous audience watching that film, it's an MMIP story itself. It's maybe not as obvious to non-Indigenous audiences watching Killers of the Flower Moon that it's the same thing. So when you have Fancy Dance in the same place 100 years later, but the same issue, like as Molly in Killers of the Flower Moon, you watch her lose every one of her sisters. In Fancy Dance, you meet her searching for her sister. It's the same story told in 2 very different experiences, but on the same land. So I feel like one of the great gifts of all of the doors that Killers of the Flower Moon opened, it created an opportunity for audiences to really fall in love with a Native family, to fall in love with a Native woman, and to really care about what that experience is of losing relatives to all of the ugly facets of post-colonialism, and how Fancy Dance, those who were able to see it in festivals last year before it had found its home at Apple, just by and large, people would comment on that whatever Killers of the Flower Moon kicked up for them, and whatever appetite it left for them, a lot of people wanted more of Molly, wanted more of the Kyle sisters, wanted more of an insular look of what that experience was. But then audiences who got to see Fancy Dance said, oh, that kind of took care of that for me. Watching those 2 films in tandem is a very important experience and conversation that spreads out over a century. So it ended up being really, really beautiful and just, I think, that it landed ultimately at home with Apple so that the two can be seen literally back to back on the platform.
Again, Fancy Dance will debut in select theaters today before premiering globally on Apple TV Plus on Friday, June 28th, a week from today. You can catch part 2 of my interview coming up at 6:45.